Welcome to another episode of Brit in Poland. Today, we are going to discuss one of the more controversial subjects in the world right now. While countries like, say, the UK, a lot of Europe, USA, Canada, Australia, okay, pretty much every country is talking about immigration in let's say, a rather negative context. There have been some large demographic changes. There have been some issues with law and order, competition for housing, all of these kinds of different factors. We're going to talk about the situation in Poland, and we're going to try and give you a very balanced view of what is happening in Poland. You know, does immigration have a big impact here? Is it just part of everyday life? And we're going to go through some of the law changes that are coming into effect, ask a few questions, maybe give a few hints and tips to people. And it should be an interesting video. So I want to welcome Beata. Beata, thank you very much. Very nice to meet you too. Yes. And thank you very much for agreeing to be on this video. So Beata is an immigration consultant. So she understands pretty much, shall I say, like everything, all the ins and outs about the immigration system in Poland.
Quite a lot.
Quite a lot. Okay, and we have a few notes for some certain topics. So if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself, a bit about your background.
So yes, I'm Beata, born and raised in Warsaw. And 6 years ago, I decided that I can use my experience in helping foreigners with administrative procedures here in Poland and turn it into a business, in fact. But I've never had a desire to turn it into a business that would make me rich. My desire is to help people. So this is what I have been doing for the past 6 years. And in fact, I started doing it over 20 years ago with my friends and the friends of my friends. And this is how it all started. So that's my background.
Brilliant. And can you just give me a little bit of background on the company? So BL Consultancy, right?
Yes.
And what are the sorts of things that you do here? Mm-hmm. And yeah, just tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so BL Consultancy, BL Be Legal, but it also comes with my name and surname as well. It's also connected, Beata Łukaszu. So it just came like that. I work with foreigners who are legal in Poland already, and they want to remain legal. So we do not work with refugees as a group. We do not work with those who are seeking asylum. We do not work with illegal immigrants. Mm-hmm. If we have conversation with such people, we direct them to the right places. But we do not work with this group. We work with those who are here legally and want to remain this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brilliant. And would you say that most of it is just the legal documentation that you're helping them through, questions they have, that kind of thing?
Somebody who came legally and wants to remain legal has to go through administrative procedures here in Poland. They are a bit complicated in some cases, and usually they are complicated. And of course, everything is in Polish.
So I know it.
Yes, that's an additional challenge. So we help with all these procedures. The permissions you get to stay in Poland usually for a short period of time. It takes time before you are eligible to apply for long-term ones. So my clients coming back to me every, let's say, 1 or 2 years, because we have to repeat some procedures.
I see, like renew things.
Yes, renew documents, repeat procedures. And many of my clients are working like that with me already for this past 6 years. We've been working on 3-4 cases already with one person. So yeah, we enjoy the journey. Mm-hmm. They come back, so I guess I'm doing a good job. Yes.
That's a good endorsement.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
So I thought next we would try and give a bit of context to the current situation in Poland. Yes. So I thought we'd start off with talking about some statistics. Mm-hmm. So I understand you've put a few numbers together. Yes. And you can just give us an idea of what immigration looks like numerically right now.
So it's interesting because Poland is changing a lot in the past few years, especially. Obviously, in 2022, when the borders with Ukraine opened, because we were saving people's lives who were fleeing from the war, it's changed a lot. It definitely changed a lot, and it's still changing. Unfortunately, anytime that the borders are open, those who have some bad ideas are also using that. So it is changing.
Yeah, I remember when I came here in 2018, everyone was excited to see an English person here. Like everyone wanted to talk to me, and I was like, "Wow, I've never been so popular." Now nobody cares.
Now nobody cares. Exactly. Now nobody cares. So yes, statistics are changing also in the past few years. I printed some for us to even look at, and it's interesting how for example, if we're talking about the temporary residency, so foreigners from non-EU countries who need to register their stay here to stay if they want to stay, and to do that they have to show they have a reason, accommodation, finances, insurance. So for example, those people with the temporary residency in 2021, we had registered around 230,000. In 2022, we already jumped to close to 400,000. So what a jump, like what a change just within 1 year. And in 2023, we had 600,000. And 2025, as of Friday, when I was checking it, so it was 3 days ago, we have 750,000.
Wow.
So the change is really drastic, and amount of foreigners is growing rapidly. Poland is an open country.
The numbers don't sound too different from what we're seeing in the UK, actually. Though the UK is a lot smaller than Poland, but still, I mean, it's a big change,
And it's interesting because in the UK, English language is not a challenge. And those coming from countries where English is their language, they can easily communicate in UK, but they are still coming to Poland where communicating in English is not that easy. It's easier, much easier than it used to be, but it's not as obvious, and for example, administrative procedures are not in English.
It's true, but saying that a lot of people in the UK don't speak English, surprisingly.
Yes, they speak Polish.
I think most of the Polish people speak pretty good English, but certainly when you kind of talk about like the Far East and like certain demographics, we're seeing a lot of like dependents moving in on the back of people who, they don't speak English, they don't really integrate at all with society. I mean, I think I feel quite lucky because obviously, even though I'm learning Polish, I'm a long way from being fluent. So I can do basic transactional Polish, like shops, restaurants, bars, asking directions in the street, that kind of thing. So I get by, but I get by better in places like Warsaw and Krakow because a lot of people do speak English here.
That's true.
But having traveled around the country, for sure, there are a lot of places that don't.
Yes. If you go to a small town, it might be a challenge. That's true. And yes, if we talk about statistics, I was showing you before, like in the Warsaw area, we have the biggest number of foreigners. So, and it's at least 2 times more than in, for example, Greater Poland, as we mentioned, which is a surprising fact, but that's the reality.
I mean, I guess a lot of it's to do with the jobs available here.
Yes, there is lots of companies where you can also work in different languages, not Polish only. And this is the big change in Poland that happened over the last 10, 15 years. I remember around 15 years ago when I was talking with my friends who are not Polish, they were crying and complaining that the only jobs they can do is teach English or clean. That was all that was available. Currently, among my clients, I have some really, really highly skilled professionals who have high positions in their companies and earn amazing money, and they don't speak Polish.
I mean, there are a lot of hubs based in Warsaw. I mean, I was part of a hub in my last job, and the company I work with now, they have a lot of international clients. Their main company language is in English, despite it being a Polish company. So definitely, I think as Poland is having more of that international reach, and I mean, I hate to say it, but in many ways, Poland is the new India in a way.
That's true.
Because a lot of companies utilize Polish labor, paying a lot less than they would, say, someone in Germany, but getting probably the same, if not better, skill.
Yeah. That's true. Although I can see among my clients of recent, there is a little bit of change in the labor market in Warsaw, especially because it looks like companies who are doing projects with US are moving out of Poland. So that's a little bit of change, and I'm kind of wondering which way it will go, because lots of my clients lost jobs of recent.
It's a fear every company has in this area.
Yes. So that's the reality. There's one more fun fact I want to tell you. When I was doing the statistics and checking the numbers, I was curious going through the countries that I know that I have clients from. And generally, it was kind of working exactly as I expected. But there was one fun fact. Do you know of a country called Swaziland?
South Africa?
Yes, it's in the middle of South Africa. There are these two small countries. There's Lesotho and Swaziland. Although I think they officially changed the name to Eswatini a few years ago. So I'm going through statistics and I see that officially there are 4 Swazi citizens in Poland. And I started wondering, like, how come there are only 4? Because 3 are my clients. So I wrote to one of my clients a few days ago, and he's from Swaziland, and I asked him, based on your knowledge, how many citizens of your country are in Poland? And he said, based on my knowledge, we are 4.
Wow.
So I told him, I said, are you aware that 3 of you are my clients? And he had no idea. So that was kind of interesting. We joked a little bit about it, that I'm a little bit like a legal consultant of Swazi citizens in Poland.
Nice. You have a monopoly there.
Yes.
I know the South African couple. I'm hoping to be doing a video with them this week.
Yes.
And they've been in Poland for a few years now, but they're actually moving, I think, to the Philippines.
Okay.
They said that the weather's better.
It is. Yes. Poland has a very unpredictable weather. It's middle of May and it is snowing in the mountains.
There was hail yesterday.
Yes,
I couldn't believe it.
Yes. So, but now sun is shining.
For now,
Yes.
Give it an hour.
Things can change. Yes, things can change. So statistics they can be very interesting and surprising.
And what are the main demographics you see in Poland?
The statistics is different than what I see among my clients. Among my clients, the biggest group is from India, then Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, America, I think, and Rwanda. Yes, these are my biggest groups. Although if we look at statistics, the biggest group is, of course, Ukraine. I do not work mostly with Ukrainians because they are still under different laws and they have different
I was going to say,
options.
because they have the special arrangement.
Yes. They still have special arrangement. It's still in Poland for at least a few more months. We don't know if it will be extended or not yet. It's not yet announced.
I think that might be down to the next president, given some of the policies I've seen.
Probably. It's definitely, I want to believe that it's a political decision. Yes. So we will see. Then the second biggest group is Belarus, which I know that it's the fastest growing group, because there was a moment when we were also very, very open to Belarusians. I have few friends and families who came from Belarus. Some of them had to flee for their safety, for the safety of their families and kids. Some of them just moved because they saw better opportunities here.
So, I know a few in Warsaw Global. We have, like every week I meet someone new from Belarus, I would say.
Yeah. The next one is Georgia. We hear about Georgia quite a lot in the news. Unfortunately, usually the bad things. And yeah, that's why we shouldn't believe media all the time with everything, because yeah, the only thing we hear about Georgia is the bad things and some groups that did something that we are not really enjoying.
We'll talk about media in a bit, but yeah, it's fair to
Yeah.
say that there are some interesting things being said.
Yes. So, and yes, the fourth one is India. So here where I come, the fourth one is India, and we have Turkey, we have Uzbekistan, we have quite a lot of citizens of Russia, which is still interesting even in our political situation.
I mean, I guess quite a few are probably fleeing the situation in Russia right now.
I can imagine quite a few are fleeing. Moldova, Vietnam, Philippines, Azerbaijan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Colombia, Zimbabwe. Yeah, like, so these are the top ones. But we are getting into smaller numbers and smaller numbers. Definitely, yeah. So the ones that I mentioned are into few thousands in the whole Poland. So it's not a massive influx of those groups from a specific country. And yeah, we have some countries from where officially we have one person. One of my favorite countries. I'm very fascinated.
There's
about
only one person from
Djibouti.
Portugal?
Yes, there's officially one person.
I swear
from
I've met more
Portugal.
Portuguese people than that.
Yeah,
here.
but I think it's yeah, depending on what statistics we are looking at, I think probably. So yeah, I'm fascinated about Djibouti. I marked Djibouti, and geographically and politically, I'm fascinated about that country. I would love to meet a citizen of Djibouti.
So if you're from Djibouti,
Yes.
please get in contact.
Please, let's meet for coffee and let's have a chat. I would love that. Yeah, so we are I believe we're a unique country in Europe, and we are kind of in the center, although I know some people call us in Eastern Europe. We are not, we are Central Europe. Definitely we are Central Europe, and it's a safe country, it's a pretty safe country. We are very serious about obeying the laws, we are very serious about following the rules. So many foreigners are looking for their way to Poland, and I had few conversations with both EU citizens and non-EU citizens who said, "I want to stay here because I really enjoy life here."
I can testament to that. I mean, it took me maybe a couple of months to kind of find my feet after I first got here, but once I really started like integrating with the people, exploring around, getting used to the cost of living and things like that, and just just seeing how clean everything is. And the weather was instantly better than the UK. The food was healthier and tastier. There were all these things, and like it didn't take me long to fall in love with Poland, I have to admit.
Of recent, I had a conversation with a British guy who told me we have better tea than the one he finds in the UK. So, well, that's interesting.
I'm not much of a tea drinker, so I'm curious, but like I do like the fruit teas you have here. Actually.
Oh, okay, yes. So maybe this is better. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that was very interesting, and I just wanted to check. What are some of let's say, the basic requirements for like somebody living in Poland? I assume that they're different between EU and non-EU.
Yes.
Like, are there any requirements for EU citizens?
Yes. Yes, the EU citizen should come and register his or her stay if they want to stay in Poland for longer than 90 days.
Okay.
So you're free to come for 90 days. But if you want to stay longer, for example, get a job, because you have a family here or things like that, you need to register your stay. It's a very simple procedure.
And this is like the temporary residence permit?
It's similar, yes, it's similar. You kind of register the fact that you are living in this country. You don't ask for permission, but you register the fact. So you are just showing that you have a job, for example, and that's your reason to be here, or that you have a family, then that's your reason to be here.
Just so you're on the books, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of, yes. I guess for statistics. So it's a very simple procedure. It's as if we talk about the cost of the administrative procedure, it's free. It takes 30 days, usually, sometimes 45, depending. You get a plastic card as a confirmation of your stay to be registered, and you're free to leave. You are free to work, you're free to leave. So this is a very, very simple procedure for EU citizens. For non-EU citizens, it's a completely different story. It's a completely different story because they have to go through the process of asking for permission to stay. So the whole application with the reason why they want to be here, with the proofs that they have accommodation, that they have money, that they have health insurance, as we have a public health insurance in Poland, so everybody is required to have a health insurance. So it's a whole process, and sometimes, depending on the region in Poland, currently there are some places where the process of getting permission can take up to 3 years.
3 years. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I remember we talked about this. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard people in Warsaw say it's taken a year.
Yes.
I know maybe somebody in Gdansk who was waiting 2 years,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
3 years
Yeah, yeah.
waiting for your documents. It must be quite
Yes.
stressful. Like,
It is very stressful, very frustrating. It is very difficult, especially now when the new law was just announced, and there are some challenges for students if they want to work. So if they will have to wait for 3 years for their residence permit, all this time they won't be able to work, which is a big challenge.
Oh, so you can't.
Currently you can, but with the new law that will start being enforced from 1st of June this year, if a student is here with the student visa, to be able to work, they will need an additional work permit, which itself takes few months to get.
Wow. So they have to kind of have money behind them to begin with.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So it's a massive change, because right now, if somebody came as a student with a visa for studies, they could just start working as well, like to support themselves during this time. And even if the process was taking 2-3 years, it didn't stop them from working. But now it will be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to understand the logic, because I know in the UK, we do have a lot of student visas.
Yes.
So people who, register as a student, maybe they're signed on to some college or something, but then they're immediately started working. And it's kind of a bogus route into the UK. So I'm wondering if do you have that kind of problem in Poland?
Yes, it's exactly the same problem. The same reason caused these changes. So last year, I don't know if you heard of this, probably you did, living in Poland, there was a massive investigation towards the visa processes and how many visas were issued to foreigners, and did those foreigners ever even step into Poland?
Wow.
Because getting a visa to Poland was pretty easy for quite a long time, and many foreigners used that as a way into Europe, not into Poland. They never really wanted to come to Poland, so they were getting a fake admission, not maybe fake admission to a university in Poland. They were never planning to study, but they were getting a student visa and then moving wherever they wanted.
Wow.
Often not even landing in Poland on their way to Europe. So
were they able to claim free movement within the EU because of that?
Yes, because if you have a Polish
Hmm.
visa, you are able to go for 90 days to another EU country.
Interesting.
Yes.
See, I thought that would come with citizenship rather than.
No. So with legal documents, because we are part of the European Union, if you are legal in Poland, you have the movement of 90 days within every 180 days among Schengen and European countries possible. Yes. So you can go for 90 days, and that's what exactly people were doing, getting Polish visas for studies, never really starting studies, and going to other countries and starting work and getting documents over there.
That is interesting.
Yes. So there was a massive investigation. The results were really crushing because of that for quite some time. And I think still in some countries, it's really hard to get Polish visa, especially if you don't have like a strong reason. All the tourist visas, family visiting, things like that, many of my clients are complaining that it's just impossible.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they've really cracked down on
Yes.
abuse of the system.
Yes. So that's why the changes, and for example, one of the changes that are now introduced is that the universities will have to inform authorities if a student doesn't show up. So this is a sign that the visa was issued for a specific person for a specific study, but the person never showed up, and they will have a very short time to do that, to inform.
I think I would say that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's good for our safety. It's definitely making the cheating process a bit more difficult. So that's a good step. I think it's a good step. But yeah, for those who want to do things right, they have to be ready for long administrative procedures here. And Warsaw used to be pretty fast in good days. A few days ago, I spoke with somebody who got decision in 2022, beginning of 2022, in 2 months.
Wow.
I was even surprised that it was so fast.
I think I had to wait 3 months for mine, and that was back in 2018.
Yeah, but yours was even different because you were still coming here as an EU citizen.
Yes, true.
Yeah, so you were coming through those simple procedures.
Yes.
I'm talking about the difficult ones, about the ones for the non-EU
okay.
non-EU citizens, as you would have to go through right now if you came just now. So it's a much longer procedure, much more papers. Yeah, lots of bureaucracy, lots of things to prove, and even if you do everything right, you might still get a negative decision and have to appeal and explain yourself even more. So yeah, it doesn't always go so easy. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
No, I understand now. Yeah, because I think I do perhaps have a kind of slightly like rosy view on it, because it was
Yes.
quite like, even the paperwork I had to do was annoying, because like you had these big forms to fill in, and you had to supply ID and blah blah blah, proof of this, proof of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's even worse if you're outside of the EU. I dread to think how much they have to do.
Yeah, sometimes we go with a big file of documents, and it's still sometimes not enough to prove everything.
Wow.
So plus mistakes happen on both sides. It can be a mistake on our side. It can be a mistake on the immigration office side.
I remember one mistake I kept making was giving them documents that were photocopies of a document.
No.
Yeah, everything has to be original. The signature has to be real ink. They do test it.
Yes. Yeah, that's a unique thing, because even if somebody understands the procedures, there are all those little things that you have to know exactly. Like you cannot show just a copy of a document. You have to show original of a document. And you can submit a copy, but only if you show original. And you make sure that the clerk will confirm that this is the same as original. So it's kind of, like those signatures. Now with electronic signatures, how to verify electronic signature. You have to make sure you send it the proper way. There is a lot of little challenges and traps.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I think this nicely kind of takes us on to our next section, which is about, so you say that we're going to have some changes in the law.
Yes.
Are you able to tell us about, let's say, some of the main changes that will impact immigrants here?
Yes. So a few days ago, the 4 different laws, like a set of 4 new acts of law, was announced and published officially. We had some of them signed by the president a few weeks before even, but we were waiting for an official publishing of them, because that's when we knew when they will start being in power. And they are mostly affecting students and workers. So students, like I said, like I already mentioned, students who are coming here with visas, they will not be able to start working immediately.
Till they get the permit.
They will have to go through the process of getting a work permit or permission to stay and work, because there are 2 different types of documents. Workers, there is much more responsibilities and much higher penalties for breaking the law, for the companies who are employing foreigners. So that's a good thing, because lots of companies were abusing cheap labor
What, like not paying people the minimum
Yes,
wage?
not paying, exactly,
Oh,
paying
wow.
them way below minimum, not signing contracts. I've heard so many terrible stories of people who started working, they were never paid, or people who started working. One of my clients, he started working and he wanted documents to confirm, like, because we're in the process of legalizing his stay for another, like a second or third time already. And we needed documents from this new workplace. And they refused to give him documents because obviously they were doing something shady, and they refused to give him documents. And when he was pushing them that he needs documents, they fired him.
Oh my God.
They never paid him for the 2 or 3 weeks of work that he did. They fired him on spot. He suddenly became jobless, and we are in the middle of the process. So it was a really, really serious fight.
I'm hoping he reported this employer to the authorities, because it sounds like they need investigating.
I was encouraging him to do that. I don't know if he did. I think he didn't. I think he just kind of gave up because it was more important for him to take care of his legal status than fight them.
True, but still.
So there is much more penalties for companies. There is a much more bigger focus on paperwork, which is interesting because for me it was obvious that when you work, you sign a contract, but obviously not obvious for every company. So Polish government decided to write it in the law that it has to be a contract, has to be written, plus it has to be in Polish and in the language that a foreigner understands.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was law too, that you had to have a contract.
Not officially. We could have a spoken contract theoretically,
okay.
but those ones are really hard to prove.
Yes.
Just in case there is a problem, they are really hard to prove. So, and this is interesting because just a few days ago, again, I was talking with a client and he came with documents and showed me documents, and his employment contract was in Polish and Russian. And he doesn't speak any of those languages. And I asked him, how did you sign this document? And he was surprised. And I said, well, you should not sign documents that you do not understand.
Google Translate is pretty good these days.
Yes, but, well, he didn't even do that. So that's why I asked him, how did you sign it? Did you translate? And he said, no, he just believed that everything is fine and he signed. So these are the problems, and the Polish government noticed that and wrote in the new law that yes, that it has to be written and it has to be in the language that a person understands. And there are penalties for not doing that, of course. There are penalties for not reporting that the person didn't show up to work. There are penalties for not reporting that the person stopped working sooner than the contract expired or the work permit expired.
Just so these people don't disappear.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because, like we mentioned, they were disappearing. They were just coming, using Poland as an entrance to Europe, never showing up, or just showing up for 2 weeks and not liking the job and just disappearing and just going and living their free lives, and nobody knew where they were. So yes, Poland is becoming a bit more serious about that. Language, because it's a hot topic for a few months already, since the changes of the law started showing up as projects. So currently, foreigners who want to try to apply for a long-term permission to stay, kind of a permanent permission to stay in Poland, they have to prove they speak language on a B1 level. It's not so much, but it is a lot. Yes?
Yeah, they have to. I think they have to do an exam with the government. Right?
Yes, there are a few ways of proving that. So, exam with the government exam is one of the ways. There are other ways. There was another way that was kind of discovered, I would say, because it was always there in the law, but it was discovered by a multitude of foreigners a few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And it's this kind of vocational school that is like a postgraduate vocational school. 1 year school, very often free because it's financed by government, in Polish, but people were doing trainings that did not require much speaking in Polish, and yet getting documents at the end that they studied for 1 year in Polish. and they were able to use those documents as proof that they can speak Polish on a B1 level.
Speaking from experience, coming from a language set outside of, oh God, what's it called again? This language family, that like Polish and Ukrainian and Slavic. Sorry, yes, of course. You know, like learning Polish for me is a disaster. Like I'm on my second tutor now, and I did 2 years where I was doing like 2 hours of lessons a week plus a bit of homework. So it's like I know a lot of words, I know a lot of basic sentences, but like the language is so alien to me in a way, in like the structure and like the grammar and stuff, that it's a challenge. So the idea that anyone could learn it in a year for this vocational course is kind of laughable.
Yes. So yes, the government discovered also that the foreigners discovered this option, and it's now over. Documents, this kind of documents will be useful only for one more year from 1st of July 2025, so only until the end of June 2026, with some other restrictions and requirements. So this is a big change, and a lot of people were, because these documents were useful both for the EU long-term residency, permanent stay, and citizenship. So now the main option, the whole idea is the main option will be the government exam.
At least mentally, I was prepared for that already. I'm not physically prepared, but mentally, I'm prepared. Like.
Yes. So this is a big change. Poland is also trying to encourage highly skilled professionals. So we have something called EU Blue Card, and this one, it's a type of permission to stay and work, but for those highly skilled, very well paid professionals. So the idea is that from 1st of June, procedures for those who are applying for this type of permission will be much faster. How it will be implemented, will it really happen? Will it really be faster? I don't know. I'm a bit skeptical because I know how it works. We have law that says that those procedures generally should take 2 months, they take 1 year or 2 years. So if now the law says that they should take 1 month, because I believe this is what the current law is saying, that those procedures should be much faster, will they be taking 1 month? I don't know. We will see. We will see how things will change. So, and another thing is because lots of universities are thriving on foreign students, and basically they have no Polish students. There are such universities. In Warsaw, there's at least 1 or 2.
Do foreigners pay more for universities here in Poland than locals would pay?
As a citizen, if I want to go and study in Polish, it's free.
Is that for all age groups, though? I thought that was when you...
No, we don't have any limits.
Okay.
I can go and study at any point, so it's free. If I want to go and study in English, there is a payment. But it's less than if a foreigner of a non-EU country want to come and study in English. So this is the best business. And those universities are doing very well. But the government also noticed that, okay, no problem with you functioning, but we want to make sure that the quality of education is high enough that the university diploma still has a value. So there is an idea, and I believe it went through. I would have to double check because sincerely there is a lot that has changed in the last few days. I did not have a chance to even read everything once again very well. But in the project, there was an idea of the rule of 50-50. So 50% Polish citizens and 50% foreigners. Which will be a big challenge for some universities.
If their model is built on getting people from outside of Poland,
exactly.
But it makes sense because it stops them kind of abusing the system.
But although this rule will be coming gradually, it's not something that will come from this academic, the soonest starting academic year, but I think it's from 2027.
Okay.
So there are those gradual changes. They are aware that this has to go through the process. Things have to change. Recruitment processes have to change. During recruitment, students will have to confirm they speak the language. And it's not a bad idea. Again, it's not a bad idea. I've had a client who was studying in English, and believe me, we really struggled communicating in English.
Oh, wow.
And I was wondering how come this person can study in English.
Yeah.
We cannot have a simple conversation in English. How can you study?
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
Exactly. So these are the good changes. Generally, these are good changes. So I don't mind the changes. I kind of feel they are going the right way. Although this year will be a bit revolutionary. Yes, there is a big change for foreigners in Poland. So we all will have to learn lots of new things.
I think one thing you mentioned, that instead of living in Poland for 10 years, it was going to be 15 years for like...
That's just a project.
Oh,
and
okay.
Again, there is one more law that has been showed up as a project some months ago with these other ones, but then the work on it was a bit suspended.
Okay.
And now, since we are talking today, it's a presidential election day. It was brought back just like less than 2 weeks ago as a political tool in the election. I don't think that it will go through because exactly the idea was that people will have to live close to 15 years in Poland to be able to apply for citizenship.
I think they're talking about doing the same thing in the UK, actually.
That's interesting. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe it will go through. I don't know. Currently, there are different ways of getting into the point where you can apply for citizenship. And I'm not talking about the one where the president just decides, because the president has the power to decide even if you're here for one day, if for some good reasons you should become a citizen. We had such situations in the past with, for example, football, soccer players who were representing Poland, and immediately they were just becoming officially citizens just to be able to represent Poland. And they've never even been to Poland sometimes, in some cases. So they came to Poland for 1 week.
Well, there was that American actor.
Yes,
I can't remember his name.
Bad with names.
Yeah, I'll try and dig it out. But there was a famous American actor who was just given Polish citizenship.
Recent, yes. Yeah. He made the movie that was called Real Pain, I think, or something like that.
I don't know if I've seen that one. It doesn't sound...
I did. I didn't like it. But yes, he's the one. Yes, he has some Polish roots, and exactly his procedure was through the president. Of course, he doesn't live in Poland. He's not proving any connections here. He proved that he has Polish ancestors, so it went through the president. And
how many generations does that have to go back?
Up to 4, like up to 4. Of course, the closer to you, the better. So I had cases of first generation. So like one of the parents was Polish, very simple. Although those procedures just take time as well. They currently in Warsaw, it takes also 1 year to go through this process. But it's a very simple process in a way that you don't have to submit much documents. You don't prove any reason for you to be here. You just claim your citizenship because you have it already. So you kind of confirm your citizenship. So with the second generation, of course, more documents, third generation, more documents. I have one client, we are working with the fourth generation Polish citizens. I don't know yet the result. Sincerely, I don't know, because this one is much harder, definitely, because it's pretty old. Pretty old documents, not all documents are available. Poland was not on the map at that time. Poland was under, Russian, for example, occupation, or Prussian, or Austria. So, like, depending on the part of Poland. So that's a challenge. But if somebody lives here and goes through the process of first getting a temporary residence permit, then getting some type of permanent type of residency, it takes close to 10 years, between 8 and 10 years, depending which way you go, to be able to get to the point where you can apply for a Polish citizenship.
Right.
So the changes proposed now, we're changing it to close to 15 years, as I said, and I can hear from other people working in immigration. None of us thinks it will go through because it's a political idea, fully supported by one side of the political, parties.
I mean, to be honest, I think the language barrier is enough, but maybe this
Yes.
law is perhaps targeted more at like Ukrainians, for example, because they pick up the language very easily and there are a lot here. I don't know.
Maybe, but lots of Ukrainians also have Polish ancestry because of geography,
yes, makes
and our
sense.
situation before the changes. So many Ukrainians, many Belarusians are coming with this something called Karta Polaka, which is like a confirmation of Polish ancestry. Many Georgians, I have a client from Georgia who came with a similar document. And with such a document, you immediately apply for a permanent stay. And after 1 year of staying in Poland based on this permanent stay, you can apply for citizenship.
Oh, wow.
So these changes will not affect this group.
I see.
So I don't know exactly. That's why I said, like, I believe it's a political tool that was used in the campaign. I'm not afraid that it will go through.
Okay.
Yes.
So we won't dwell on it too much longer, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's a nice kind of summary. And I think at the end of the video, we'll give like a link to the website so we can, people can look for more information there as well. So let's go on to our next topic, which, so now we're getting to, let's say, some of the juicier stuff.
Yes.
And we'll talk about the media and their interpretation of immigration in Poland.
Yes, the media. The media, yeah. I do not believe media. I have a TV that I use only as a screen for what I want to watch, but not as a TV. I do not believe media. It gives you a one-side picture. Yes, definitely. It gives you it's so hard to find the good news. There's all the bad news. There's only crime, there is only bad things happening. And unfortunately, in Poland, we are currently in this moment that whenever a crime is committed, it is reported a Georgian citizen did this, and this. A Russian citizen this, a Ukrainian this. It's creating this division. It's creating this kind of narrative that, okay, if one Georgian guy did this, then all Georgians are bad. If one Ukrainian did this, then definitely all of them are bad. It is never true. Never, as we know. And I always tell people, and whenever I talk with my clients or with just friends, I say that it's a simple mathematic. In a bigger group, you have bigger group of those with funny ideas. And it is natural that you will hear more about them, obviously.
Yeah, because it's interesting because like in the comments on my videos, I do get a mixture of when the subject of immigration comes up, it's a mixture. So some people are very supportive, some people are very anti, and when people are anti, you can hear certain demographics being mentioned. And because this is an area that doesn't touch on me so much because I don't really watch media. Like most of the media I watch is UK media, and it's like independent platforms rather than news channels. I watch a couple of news channels, but as you say, like even in the UK, it's so polarized now. I can't trust. This is why I prefer independent people who like give me decent statistics
and facts.
Exactly.
I remember I did a test some times ago. I went to my sister and we sat in front of TV and we watched news on 3 different channels. One very right, one very left, and one pretty centered. The same stories presented in such a different view that is just mind-blowing, as if we were hearing 3 different stories, but it was exactly the same story.
Yeah, I blame America. They started all of this.
So that's why I don't listen.
Okay, so media bad. Understood.
Yeah.
But like if people do want to have a better picture of what is going on, do you know where they can turn to?
Well, I would say they should talk to people.
Okay.
because I think that gives you the best idea of how it really is. As I said, I'm in this I feel privileged knowing foreigners for such a long time. There were times in my life when I felt like I have no Polish friends. I have only foreigners around me. And this gives me a very unique perspective, definitely.
I see.
So talking to people, hearing their problems and listening and watching them, watching how they function in Poland, I think this gives us a better idea of how it is. Watching news, definitely bad idea if you want to have a like a real picture of what's going on. Yes, statistics are showing. Yes, it's good to know what's going on. And I do read news and I do check what's going on once in a while, but I don't want to believe that everything is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I know that the situation with immigration in Poland is changing. And as I said, Poland changed in the last 20 years or even 15 years. We changed from a country of emigrants who were always going out, going to UK, for example, to a country receiving immigrants. We are confused. We don't know what to do with that. It's a new thing because we were always the country that was struggling in history so much that we were going out to look for help and look for better life.
This is the problem when you do a good job managing a country.
Yeah, that's a good problem. Yes. But now we suddenly became an attractive country for immigrants who want to come and seek better life here. And it is confusing. That's why I'm glad that the law is changing, because the previous law that was talking about the situation of foreigners at the labor market was 20 years old.
Wow, okay.
Completely out of, place, like completely not adjust to the current situation. When the law was created, I don't know, we probably had, like looking at statistics, in 2010, we had less than 25,000 people in the whole Poland registered with temporary residency. In 2020, so 2010, we have 25,000. In 2025, we have 750,000. So in the course of 15 years, it multiplied so much that the law has to change.
And do those figures, I was curious actually, do those
Yeah.
figures include Ukrainians? Or are they counted separately?
No, it does include those who went through the normal process and
I
got
see,
this permission.
yeah.
The
So not the
residence
refugees,
permit.
but people who moved here.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
People who moved, like we said before, they are still under separate special solutions, and they don't have to do it yet. Although the time will come when all of them will have to go through this process.
I see.
So we are just kind of waiting for the government to decide when will that happen.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand where the jump came from, but yeah.
The jump came definitely from the war in Ukraine. That's
Yeah.
for sure. That's definitely the situation. Although, generally, Poland is changing.
Okay.
So we are changing. We have to adjust, and I really don't like the news, talking about engineers. I'm sure you heard those about engineers.
Scientists and engineers,
Yes,
yeah.
on the streets and committing crimes and doing things. And I think it's very hateful and wrong.
We have the same rhetoric in the UK.
Yeah.
I think pretty much the whole of Europe is using it now.
Yeah.
But I think to be honest, I think the picture in Poland, from my perspective, is very different.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of foreigners here, and all of them are working, or they're students. They're not on state handouts, or then very few of them are like dependents for people. And I do get this feeling that people who are moving here and staying here are doing it to make a life here.
Yes.
I mean, yes, of course, some move on. Some go to Germany, Netherlands, countries like that. But yeah, in the UK, I would say it's a very different story.
Yeah.
Like we have a lot of people that go into the benefit system, for example. And yeah, so we have our own issues.
And I think the Polish solution is to have a bad benefit system.
Yeah, I think it works very
Yes,
well.
we don't really have much to offer to people who are coming, and I hope you will have a chance to talk one day with people who work with in the refugee camps.
I would like that conversation, actually.
Yes, so the situation is really bad. If you land in such a place, you really have nothing. And Poland is not offering much. It gives you a roof above your head and simple food, and that's basically it.
For me, I think what is offered by Poland is a long list, but just from it being a nice country,
Yeah.
a good place to live, good quality living.
Yeah, and a safe living. I believe it's a safe living. I am not afraid to go out in the evening to the streets. I am not afraid to call police for help. Police is still helpful. Yeah, so I think it's a good country from this point of view, and we are not that attractive to illegal immigrants because exactly we do not offer much. And I think that's our way of dealing with this group. We do not offer much.
Yeah. At one point, I'm going to put together my own immigration policy for the UK, based on the many, many wonderful ideas that have been espoused. But anyway, that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
So one other thing that's happening occasionally, it happened like last weekend, is we are seeing marches about immigration in Poland. And like whenever our group hears about this, we post in our group, by the way, you may not want to be out on the streets at this time in this place, because there are some people who might not like you being there.
Yes, I'm a person who doesn't like crowds, so I wouldn't go to any of those marches for two main reasons. I don't like crowds, and I do not agree with any of those groups fully, because none of them is fully right.
Because they're kind of polar extremes, aren't they? You have the one side, which is there should be no immigrants, Poland for Poland.
Exactly.
And then you have the other group, which is like, let everyone in.
Yes, I do not agree with that we should let everyone in, and I do not agree that we should completely close our door. We need immigrants. Poland, the demographic in Poland is changing. We are getting older. We don't have as many kids as we used to. We don't have as many kids in many African or Arab countries. We need people to come to Poland, and we want highly skilled workers and students who are getting education and working here. We want that. So we just need to come up with smart ideas of how to invite those that we want. And I wouldn't go with any of those groups, like I said. I do not believe that Poland is only for Poles, because if we went with this way of thinking, that would mean that all those Poles that in the course of history were seeking for help and refuge in other countries, they were traitors. That's wrong.
Well, it's like
really wrong.
we have, is it 1 million Polish people in the UK, something like that?
The only million? I think at some point it was much more.
It could be, but I think after Brexit it went down.
Okay,
I think a lot of people sadly didn't feel as welcome.
When the movement from Poland to UK started, I think we were around 40 million Poles, and then it's changed, and I think the lowest was close to 36 million.
Really?
At some point, yes, really.
But
there was so many people going out of Poland, not only to UK, but also to Germany, for example. So looking for better life, looking for different opportunities. So to Scandinavian countries, I knew of lots of people who went to Norway.
There's a lot of people in, is it Chicago in the US?
Yes, the Polish districts, yes. Which is sad as well, yes, because you can live abroad and don't even speak a language different than yours, because you're surrounded with only your people, which, again, I don't think it's a good thing. I wouldn't go with any of those groups. I do not believe we should close the door, and I do not believe we should open the door wild and for everybody.
That's fair. So it's kind of like a balance, get the good skilled people. I mean, you mentioned about the demographics and the lowering birth rate. I'm starting to, because we have the same arguments in the UK, throughout the whole of Europe. it's keeping the economy going
Yes.
so that people
Yeah.
can have pensions paid and stuff like that. Personally, I think the government needs to address the birth rate issue rather than trying to work out alternatives for it. Like, I think there are a lot of economic solutions that could be done to make people's lives easier, improve quality of living. I don't know. It's a whole subject I'm going to go into in another video.
Yes, it's a very, very deep subject. Poland is trying. We have something called 800 plus.
Yes, true.
Each child gets 800 zloty per month. If being here, even foreigners get this money if they are legally registered here in Poland. So it's a support for families, but that's not enough. The cost of life, it's increasing, and this
Sadly.
is not enough. And it's not that. Poland is not an easy country, and I think the whole Europe is not an easy place to have many kids. I always admire people with more than 2 kids because it's a lot of work and it's not so easy. And
my brother has 2 daughters, and like I consider him very lucky. But even then, like he's employed, his wife is employed, and they have a house, but it's still difficult.
It's a challenge, exactly. So, and I at the same time know families with 4 or 5 kids who came from, for example, Africa, and they said that they had no idea how hard life can be with kids, because over there they had all this support system with their colleagues and friends and neighbors and family. Everybody has large family. It's a completely different story. So there is a lot that will have to change. I don't know if we are able to change it. I think might be easier to just adjust and agree that this is a cultural change, that this is just a civilization change that we are going through, and we just have to open the door to those who want to come and work and support the economy. So that's what I think.
Sounds fair.
Yeah.
I think the next topic, let's talk about the scamming that we see. So you've mentioned to me that there are some organizations out there that decide, you know what, we're going to help you, we're going to get you your residence faster, blah, 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 just give us some money and we can do this. Tell me about these places.
So it's interesting because in the last 3 years especially, there is this massive increase of agencies and companies who claim to have some magical solutions to all this bureaucracy that foreigners have to go through in Poland. And they are promising this amazing results that everything will be done within 1 month or 3 months. You get this, you do that. It's just not possible. And those stories are so sad usually. I kind of wrote down few of the cases that I personally know of people who were victims of such agencies, in a sense. In some situations we were able to fix it, in some not. In some it went so far already that they had to leave Poland.
But what are, like, let's say, the key ways of spotting these companies? Like, if somebody's looking to find, say, a consultant, or they're looking for an agency to help them with their paperwork or something like that, how would they know not to trust this group?
I would be careful if somebody promising me something fast, cheap, and of good quality. It's just not possible to have 3 together. It will be either fast and cheap, but the quality will be really low. You will not get what exactly you wanted. It will be maybe fast and good quality, but then you have to pay a lot of money. And this with administrative procedure doesn't really work. Like here, you cannot just pay more and get it faster. It doesn't work like that. I had this conversation with people who thought that, okay, if I pay more, I can make it faster. We don't have this kind of solutions. So I would be careful if somebody promising me the cheap, fast, and good quality, definitely. I would be careful if I'm going to a company that is offering me legal support and nobody's Polish there. I would be very careful. And unfortunately, we have quite a lot of those. Yes, as a foreigner, you might have a challenge spotting whether the person is Polish or not, but I had few clients who openly ask me, are you Polish? And I don't mind answering this question. For this past 6 years, I did not really have any marketing, sincerely. It was always word of mouth. It was always because somebody told somebody. And that's how I have been functioning for this past few years. And I think it's a good thing because I know that when somebody comes to me, they already have an idea of how I work and they know that they can trust me. So I'm grateful for those clients who came at the beginning and they decided to trust me. But yes, that's how it started. And I noticed that there are sometimes like a waves of specific group of citizens from a specific country because somebody or one or two people use my services and then they felt, okay, they're good enough, we can promote it. And they promote it within their own group. And then suddenly I have so many Ethiopians coming. But I think it's a good thing. This is what I would do if I was a foreigner abroad. I would just ask, talk to people, listen. Yes, marketing is good. I would definitely look for information online, but I wouldn't just believe, definitely I wouldn't believe quick and cheap solutions.
Understood.
Because yeah, this just doesn't work. So I can give you a few examples of those who fell victims of this kind of agencies and legal support. So US citizen married to a Polish citizen, and she got a negative decision because there was some stamp was missing on the marriage certificate. And she was working with such an agency, and when she got this negative decision, they told her, "Oh, the only thing she can do is start again, start the whole process again." And she's been waiting at that point for more than 1 year. And of course, new process, new money, obviously. She thankfully started asking questions and asked few friends, and that's how we met. Somebody recommended me. She came to me. We immediately appealed this decision and we got a positive decision within a few months.
Oh, brilliant.
So, because there was no point of going through from the beginning and waiting and going through the whole process. Unfortunately, there was lots of situations when I spoke with somebody who didn't know that they got a negative decision. And in Poland, we are very serious about deadlines, very, very serious. So we have a deadline of 14 days to appeal. And if you miss that deadline, there is nothing you can do, basically nothing. You would have to prove that maybe you were in coma in a hospital, that you didn't do it on time. But you not doing it on time because you didn't know, it's not a good excuse, good enough. So people who just didn't know, those agencies did not inform them, or when they finally informed them, the deadline was already gone. And the best they could do, and unfortunately, that's what I always had to advise, to leave Poland. Because there was nothing that could be done in 99% of those cases.
But once they leave Poland, could they start the process again?
It depends in which point they leave, because sometimes when you leave and you were already illegal, you can get a ban for returning for some time. It can be for a few months. Usually it is for 6 months.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it covers whole Schengen, so not only Poland. So yes, your movement is pretty limited. That's why it is so important to make sure to stay legal. That's always my main advice. Just do everything within your power to stay legal. Like, you can explain things, you can maybe give different reasons, look for help in the process, but just make sure you stay legal, because if you miss that deadline, there is nothing.
I think this kind of nicely rolls into the next topic, actually, which is about advice you would give to people who are thinking about moving to Poland. Or, and I think that's one of the first things, the paperwork and like adhering to timelines is very important.
Yes. We are very serious about paperwork. We are very serious about deadlines. We are very serious about following the rules. If a rule says you need to have A, B, C, D, you cannot just come with A, B, C. You need to have all of them. And if you don't have the last one, you have to explain and give the reasons why. So we are very serious about that. So if you want to come to Poland, I would say do your research. and be ready to wait. Be ready to be patient and be ready for those long procedures. It's not a country where you can get your paperwork done within 2 weeks or 1 month or something like that. So Poland is a very interesting country. I would say I think it's a very interesting country, looking at the history, looking at the culture, looking at the geography. We have literally everything. We have sea, we have lakes, we have forest, we have plains, we have mountains, we have desert, we have everything. So it's such a beautiful country where you can find everything you are looking for. We have historical areas, we have super modern areas. So yeah, it's a beautiful place. It's just that you have to be ready for that level of bureaucracy that is here, the level of paperwork that is needed.
But in fairness, like in my experience, okay, fair enough, I was pre-Brexit, so it was a bit easier. But once you get past that paperwork in the beginning, it's a lot easier. Like obviously you have to renew things every few years, you still have taxes you have to do each year. But those, I think, are relatively straightforward.
I believe so. I believe, yes. If you do just work simple jobs, do basic things, yes, many things are even automatic right now. So you don't even have to do it yourself. So yeah, I would say just do your homework and find out if Poland is really the country you want to be. Because if Poland is the country, you might have to change your mindset a little bit about how life should be.
I was lucky because I had like a trial period for like 2.5 months before I even thought about actually moving here. You know, I was just here because of work, and then they prolonged my stay, as it were.
It's a good idea too. If somebody can come for those 90 days, for example, many of the countries have this agreement with Poland that you can come for 90 days and just check, is this really for me? So yeah, why not?
Yeah, and I think another important thing is having work. Because you're not going to have, like, if you, especially from outside of the EU, you won't be approved to stay here if you don't have an income.
You need to, exactly, like the outside of EU citizens, you always need to have a reason to be in Poland. That's unique about Poland, that we don't have those kind of general permission to be here. I've spoken with, for example, US citizens who retired, they have enough money and they feel Poland is nice and they want to live on their retirement here, but they still need to find a reason. You having money and you desiring to live here, unfortunately, is not a reason. So you need to have a reason. So there are different reasons we can look for. There are ways of finding solutions in such situations. But yes, generally, you need to have a reason. But the good thing is, the good news that we didn't talk about, Poland is a very family-friendly country. So if you are here and you want your family to join, it's not that difficult. There are ways of doing it. Some are longer, some are shorter, but there are ways of doing it. So I have lots of clients who brought their wives, brought their kids, some even brought their parents. And because their parents are retired and they just want to live with their kids and grandkids, and they're just enjoying life. My oldest client was 79.
Wow.
And he loved Poland. I so much enjoyed talking to him. He was such a happy senior who said he loves Poland because he can go for a walk. And nobody disturbs him on the street. He can just go and enjoy the walk. We've spoken last time before winter, and this would be his first winter. So I don't know if he enjoyed Poland at winter so much and the walking, but it was such a positive interaction. Yes, to see somebody who's 79 and is enjoying having a walk. Yeah. Yeah, so you were talking about the challenges and what would the person have to have in mind coming to Poland. So I made a list of few points. So bureaucracy, complicated administrative procedures, just have it in mind. There are solutions. Heavenly language. I told you a joke of a heavenly language, Polish being a heavenly language because you need eternity to learn it. A Polish smile. Many cultures come into Poland as surprised with how we smile. We don't really smile for no reason. We smile when we have a reason. So we don't smile to strangers on the street. So yeah, we kind of, even with my friends of recent, we were joking that a friend of ours was sick in a wedding and he was smiling in a Polish way on his own wedding. Yes, so that's a Polish smile. And of course, the unpredictable weather, as we said. We are in the middle of May and it's snowing in the mountains.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are the main things I would say. Be ready if you want to come to Poland. But apart from that, it's a beautiful country.
Totally.
So yeah, yeah.
So I think we're nearing the end now. What more can you tell us about BL Consultancy, how people can get in touch?
Yes, so we have a website, www.blconsultancy.pl. Very simple. You can write us an email, office@blconsultancy.pl or info@blconsultancy.pl. So it's very easy to find. You can find us on LinkedIn, you can find us on Facebook. We are working on our Instagram. As I said, I have been working all this time based on recommendation, client to client. So my social media is not that well like visible yet. We are working on it. I'm working
For
on it for
sure,
some time.
I can put those links in the description
yes,
below.
yes. So we can share the links. Yeah, so this is how you can find our office is at Old Town in Warsaw, so it's very easy to find. I want to believe that every foreigner that comes to Warsaw comes to Old Town, probably. So,
You would hope so.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
it's
probably.
It's the main thing to see in
Yes,
Warsaw, really.
yes, it's one of the first things that people come to see. So this is where we are. So it's not that easy to locate us. It's not that difficult to locate us.
Yeah, because that's St. Anne's Tower.
Yes,
Just
this is there is a church of Saint Anne. Yes, and this is a viewing tower next to it. So it's right behind us. So it's very easy to find. Sometimes I'm waving to people, hoping that somebody will wave back. Nobody did. So yes, I'm waiting for that. Maybe if you come, we can just have a meeting through the window. Yeah. So that's
Brilliant.
it. Yeah.
Okay. And are there any final points you would like to discuss?
Yes, I would say be an engineer of your future. So do your research, ask questions, do not believe in easy solutions. Yeah, be open-minded. Things are different, but it doesn't mean they are wrong just because of that, but they are just different, the same as we are all different. So that's my attitude towards every nationality. We might be different, we have different culture, we speak different language often, but it doesn't mean there is something wrong with either of us. So just be open to that. And as I said many times already, Poland is a beautiful country.
Really
And
is.
it's a nice and safe country. And
A
we
beautiful
really hope it
country
will stay like
filled
that.
with beautiful people, I have to say.
Okay, yes. So, yes, and my big advice to every foreigner is to make friends with Polish people.
Bring alcohol, it helps.
Yes, the saddest stories are stories of foreigners who leave Poland after a few years and they don't have any Polish friends. They didn't try Polish food. That's really sad. And unfortunately, I've spoken with such people. So it makes my heart really cry, when I hear such answers that after 5 years of living in Poland, you don't have any Polish friends. So
Yeah, I was very lucky that when I moved here, it was because of work, and
yeah,
I had a big office, a lot of Polish people
Yeah.
working in that office, and a lot of really good people.
yeah,
So I was kind of lucky in that respect.
yeah.
Now it's a much more mixed demographic I
Yes,
hang out with
yeah.
because I spend like half my free time with Warsaw Global now,
Yeah.
doing fun things,
Yes.
but very mixed group.
Yeah.
I got my Polish girlfriend who takes the other half of time.
That's good. Yes.
So, Beata, thank you very much,
Yeah.
for this conversation today. I think it's been incredibly interesting,
Yeah.
and I wish BL Consultancy the best of luck.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yes.
And I just want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, please let me know. And better yet, contact Beata. Maybe she can help you with those.
It will be my pleasure.
And please do check out the links below the video. Please give me a like to help distribution. And if you're interested in future videos from me, please hit subscribe. Thank you very much. Do zobaczenia.
Do zobaczenia.